Or
Jem, why is
Yes.
my slide coming out? I can see it. Ah, no, you can see it. It's not seen by people. Anyway, thank you.
so anyone would like to ask a question? This is our opportunity now. You can unmute yourselves or write into the chat.
Can I raise?
Yes, Demi,
Sure.
please.
Yeah, I think Ma'am AKR has posted a question in our chat room. Okay, for Dr. Makandog. Okay, great talk. You have done the study on the 7 lakes. What policy can you recommend to the government for sustainable development? Thank you, Ma'am AKR, for that very good question. That is exactly the objective of our project. So I have shown in the first slide that the title of our project is Recreational and Ecological Carrying Capacity of the 7 lakes. So on the second year of the project, we are now developing models, ecological carrying capacity model for the lakes. That's why I've sent our analytical hierarchy process, okay, so the AHP questionnaire to Mampes and to Doc Rene Claveria, just and to Jen, for them to answer this questionnaire, because this will somehow help us in computing, developing the index for the various indicators in the model. With regard to the tourism or recreational carrying capacity, one of my students, MS in Environmental Science advisee, Greshel Lynn Perez, has just finished her master's degree this second sem. She will be graduating on August 15, and she worked on the tourism carrying capacity of Lake Pandin. So in that one, she did modeling and did survey and did measurements in the lake. So basically, for that tourism carrying capacity, she was able to compute for the number of tourists per day that should be allowed in the lake to do various activities. So for example, the number of tourists who can do swimming, the number of tourists who can do the rafting and the picnicking, and then the number of tourists who can do the Mom AKR is in there, or walking around the bush. Okay, and then for the ecological carrying capacity, what we are looking in there would be the impact of aquaculture. So the nutrient enrichment in the lake and its impact on aquatic macrophytes and fish diversity, and also on the water quality. So when we have finished this project by the end of this year or early next year, we will be able to have certain policies as to really how, in terms of aquaculture, the number of fish cages and the total amount of nutrients, the excess feeds that should be allowable to go into the lake. Otherwise, more than that, it should be closely monitored by the local government unit. The same thing with the number of tourists that will be allowed in the lakes that they are developing for tourism. Okay, so they should control the number of tourists. And also, I also have another MS student who is looking into microplastics in the lake. So this one is related to the plastics that would come from tourism and also from the residential areas around the lake.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. I think we have a question here for Jay from Vito Butardo. Yes. So Vito says, have there been any comparisons of the sensory attributes of Philippine cinnamon compared with other cinnamon? I was just wondering if our cinnamon is comparable in terms of quality and sensory profile. Jay, would you like to answer that? You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I think that's a very interesting question. Actually, what has at the present time, that particular research question is still not answered. What the kind of effort that has been explored so far is just to identify contaminants, for example, of the different spices, cinnamon spices, for example, in the market, like like, how do you call that one? Extenders, for example, and then additives to the cinnamon powder. But in terms of organoleptic properties and like, did I get it right? The question, comparison of like sensor evaluation, for example, I think hindi pa po siya nagagawa so far. I mean, probably in other countries, based on my review-related literature, but Philippine cinnamon, wala pa kasi number one na problem sa cinnamon sa Pilipinas, yung identification. So only very few species ang medyo, how do you call this one? Certain yung identification niya. So if we're going to compare, for example, if we compare the most aromatic cinnamon in the Philippines, which is Cinnamomum mindanaense, that is believed to be a synonym or of Cinnamomum burmanii of Indonesia. People are suspecting that the Ice Age is actually the reason why those, from Indonesia, passing through Mindanao, yun po yung parang pinaniniwalaan nila why they're actually similar. So I think it's worth comparing the two species because they look similar, morphologically speaking. In terms of organoleptic properties as well as sensor evaluation, yun pa talaga ang hindi nagawa. Pero in terms of chemosystematics, na-compare na po yung ibang species like species ng ibang countries na nakikita din sa Pilipinas as well as other Philippine species.
Great. Well, Jay, I think you have to talk to Vito because Vito does some very interesting work on metabolomics. So I think there is, and he has a wonderful lab. So nandito rin si Vito in the city of Melbourne in another university. So I think this could be an exciting possibility.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Doc.
Now, I think I'll answer the question from Dr. Lagman. Is the cyanide production by cassava common? How should the general public be advised about this given cassava is commonly consumed? Yes, I have to categorically say that one of the remarkable things about cassava is it produces a lot of cyanide. And the reason being, I think we have understood that cyanide production is a way in which the cassava plant stores nitrogen because it is a very good plant as a poverty crop. So the release of the cyanide actually liberates the nitrogen which the plant uses. But obviously for us who have the potential to eat it, it is very risky. So in other words, we should never give up in trying to inform people that cooking cassava is important because that is the only way to destroy the cyanogenic glucoside, so the release of hydrogen cyanide, in other words. So also fermenting cassava, the cassava leaves or the cassava roots is a very important way of neutralizing and releasing the hydrogen cyanide. So for example, I was amazed to eat laing in Quezon province, which is made out of cassava leaves. But then when I first saw it, I was a bit concerned. I said, I'm sure these people know how to ferment it properly, otherwise they would be dead. But there is no two ways about it. Cassava is a poisonous plant, but really cyanide in this context is very important to know. But people from many parts of the world, in the third world, are very clever in making sure that they don't get poisoned because all it takes, for example, is to eat 5 leaves, the young leaves of cassava to kill a baby. So they just shows you how toxic it is. But, we know that folk knowledge has been very important in maintaining our health eating such a toxic plant. And then there is another question from Vito for me. Has there been any study on the molecular mechanisms of Philippine metal hyperaccumulators? Vito, there's been work on Phyllanthus balguia from Sabah, and that has been, the metabolomics of that have been done. But these are early days. I think there is space for you to try to enter into this and collaborate, especially with with your friends from UP Los Baños, because you have the technological array to do that. So we can talk about it off air. So another question. Hannah says, release cyanide is also a form of defense against herbivory. So I think, are there any other questions that
Can I ask a question,
Yes,
Dr. Yob?
yes, Mama KR, yes. Please.
You were discussing a lot about hyperaccumulators.
Mhm.
I've been kept up with bioremediation development in the country. How are they applied, or is Rene going to discuss that?
I think so, yes. The work in Surigao will be interesting, yes. Yes.
Oh, okay, because the application will be the more the interesting
Yes.
part of all this. Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
certainly. We have these plants that are very tolerant that we can use now.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. So Rene says, your comments, please. We cannot do much analytical work on accumulators because we do not have the equipment to do so. It constrains us to understand better these plants. I beg to differ, Rene, because I have discovered, like in UP Diliman in NIGS, they actually have laser ablation where you can do studies on localization of metals in plant tissue. They only use it for rocks, but they can be used for plants. And so I'm trying to encourage people to think beyond the box to use some of these. And then I think most universities have, well, there's probably a Maldi TOF in the Philippines. And, but you know, what we need is a better funding stream to be able to use this, because you know, you have the germplasm there. Why send it to places like Australia or United States or Japan? You can do it there. I believe you can do it there. Okay. So anyway, I think Jem suggests that we should have a group photo first. So if everyone can please turn on their screens, then someone will take a group photo before we go for a 5-minute break.
I'll count to 3 para everyone is on their videos, and then I'll just press print screen
Okay, excellent.
para
Yes.
sa documentation. Do I have everyone? I think I have everyone. Doxy, do you want to turn on your video? So we can
good.
see everyone?
Good to see you, Vito.
Yeah.
Vicky, Doc Vicky, are you going to turn yourself on? And Tina, Tina, are you going to turn yourself on?
Ayan si Cathy.
And Girly and
You just
great.
wait
Oh, there's
for
Hannah.
everyone
Yes.
to be
Hi,
there.
Dr.
Ayan si Ma'am Chi.
Oh,
Alright,
great, great.
sige.
Ah, yes.
We can take it again later.
Oh,
But
yes.
I just, kasi baka may mga darating ulit. So
Yes.
we'll just take it now and then.
So we
take
go.
it.
Yeah.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
So
Nice.
let's go back online at 11:55.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, 9:55.
Oh yes, yes. Sorry, I'm looking at my clock. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye guys.
We'll see you
in
shortly.
5 minutes. There we go.
Okay, I think it's probably time to start.